What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Got a lot to talk about on the show today. It's been a little bit quiet in terms of commitments for both football and basketball, but there's some stuff stirring, and we're going to discuss all that. Connor Goodson's going to hop on with us. Danny West is going to join us as well. We'll talk a little bit about Arkansas baseball also. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. Plenty of ways to watch and listen to the show. You can always watch us streaming on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so and set it to where you're notified anytime we upload new videos. Also available on Facebook. If you haven't followed our Facebook page, be one of 97,000 Razorback fans to do so. Hop on there now and do that. Also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. We'd love to have a 5-star review from you right now. If you haven't taken a moment, we're almost at 1,000 reviews. We'd love to have that review or that rating and that review from you as well. Also, HawgSports is 30% off right now for your first year at HAWG Sports. That breaks down to just $6.27 a month over a year. So that's billed at just $75.18 for the number one independent source on Arkansas sports and recruiting. You know where it's at, HAWGsports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Arkansas baseball won 2 out of 3 over Mississippi State over the weekend. Won the first game 7-5, dropped the second 8-5, and then won on Sunday 9-6 in a pretty impressive comeback win, down 6-0 at one point. So Arkansas, the new D1 baseball rankings are out. Number 1, Tennessee at 42-10. Kentucky goes up to number 2 from number 4 at 37-11. Arkansas is number 3. It goes up from 5 to 3, 42-10. Clemson is 4 at 37-13, and Arkansas's next opponent, Texas A&M, 42-10, drops from 3 to 5. Arkansas needs to win, one out of those two to win the Western Division and get the 2 seed, and then Kentucky, let's see, what has Kentucky got? Kentucky's got Vanderbilt. So let's look at the standings. By the way, you can bet on all these games. Check out Randy Rainwater's R prop bets at Bet Saracen. You can go to betsaracen.com or download the app from the App Store, the Android Store, the Apple Store, whatever. But they've got all your bets right there. So Kentucky leads the East at 37-11, overall 20-7 in conference. So Arkansas is 19-8 in conference. They would have, I guess, the tiebreaker over Arkansas. They won 2 out of 3, right? So they would have the tiebreaker. Arkansas, right behind Arkansas is Texas A&M in the Western Division. Texas A&M 17-10 right now. So Texas A&M, I guess, would just have to sweep Arkansas, and they would get first place in the Western Division. So Arkansas got a 2-game lead there. So there was a report that came out earlier today that Arkansas and Kentucky were to meet one time in 24-25. And it's going to be in Lexington. That's unfortunate. Would love to see Kentucky come to town, especially since Arkansas has got to go there, given the light, given the nature of everything that's going on with John Calipari coming to Arkansas. The basketball schedule then was released. This is, what time is it? 2:52. Weird time to start a show. 2:52, but just a little while ago, like 20 minutes ago, the basketball opponents for 24-25 in the SEC were announced. Arkansas will play 2 games, home and away, against LSU, Missouri, and Texas. That's fun. LSU, Missouri, and Texas. The Hogs will host each of the following teams for 1 game in Bud Walton Arena: Alabama, Florida, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma. Arkansas will travel to play 1 road game against the following teams: Auburn, Kentucky, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt. And there's more information you can read on that at HawgSports.com, put out by Connor Goodson. Again, that's just pretty recently released. So that's all developing. Well, it's not developing, it's out. No dates yet. Just, you know who's playing and everything. So let's get to Connor Goodson now. So for those of you who don't follow Connor, you can follow him at Connor Goodson. That's it. ConnorGoodson on Twitter. X. Damn it. I keep saying. I don't know. Part of me just wants to say, like, Joe Rogan says, like, it's Twitter. We're just going to call it Twitter from now on. I don't know where I am on that. I can't seem to grasp X. What's up, Connor?
What's up, Trey?
You've been busy all of a sudden. It's like kind of a slow day, and then just hit you with this Kentucky news, and then they released the full opponent list for basketball. We just went over all of it.
Yeah, it comes in spurts. It feels like it'll be very quiet for weeks on end. It feels like days and weeks on end, and then all of a sudden, it just news after news for about a 4 or 5 hour span. It feels like, and then quiet again.
Yeah. Well, there was a little bit of information stuff happening this weekend. Let's talk about Darius Acuff Jr. first, the number 1 ranked point guard in the country in the class of 2025. He visited over the weekend. Number 2 overall prospect in Florida, number 4 national player, 5-star recruit on 24/7 Sports, 6'3", 180. What do we know about his visit, what he's got planned, anything you can help us with there?
So, yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to talk to Darius. I've reached out to him multiple times to kind of follow up on how his visit went. But from the staff side, it went well. I mean, of course, we never really hear of visits going bad, especially with high school kids. It's always very early in the process also. So, but with him, Arkansas and Kansas right now are the 2 most recent visits that he's had. And I believe from talking just to different people that Kansas and Arkansas are probably the 2 favorites right there for him. Michigan, he's a Detroit native, playing at I can't remember his high school. He's playing at IMG Academy, but he's originally from Detroit. So Michigan also was in there before Dusty May was hired. Juwan Howard and that staff was really, really close with Acuff, so they kind of had a little bit of an edge above everyone else before Juwan Howard, got canned. And so now it's kind of back to square one with him. But he said that he doesn't plan on taking any other visits right now. He doesn't have any other plan past Arkansas and then Kansas from last month. So I think it's really good that it's going to come down to Kansas and Arkansas. And with John Calipari, his history with these, a little bit shorter but very skilled high-level combo guards, you can never really count them out when it comes to that.
When you're piecing together, just looking a little more closer to the more close future, I guess, when you're piecing together this roster and like trying to divvy out who's going to play where and stuff, like what you really look at, you say like, okay, who's going to be the point guard? And that's where DJ Wagner comes in to the picture for Arkansas. He visited over the weekend, former Kentucky Wildcat star, former 5-star prospect at Kentucky, averaged almost 10 points a game, 3.3 assists, battled some injuries last year, but he visited over the weekend. Do we have any idea? There's been some talk, I guess, Connor, that you've reported that maybe there's a chance that something could come out today on his decision. And we know USC is also a place that he visited. Is there anybody else that we should be keeping our eye on?
No, from what I'm hearing, it's Arkansas is pretty much in the driver's seat. USC, after his visit, there was some momentum, I guess, there from former Arkansas head coach Eric Musselman, and we know how he goes with his visits. There's always, good vibes. So you will, after players, leave those kind of visits. But it was pretty quiet right after he left USC, and so people were starting to get a little bit concerned. Maybe he wasn't as, in on Calipari and wasn't set to follow him like everyone initially thought. But he was just kind of taking his time, going through, seeing how things played out different places. There was a report when he announced last week that he was visiting Arkansas. It was reported that he also may take a visit to Florida. I was told that that visit, if it hasn't already been canceled, it's going to be canceled. And there's not, from anyone that I've talked to close to the program, there's not any feeling that he's actually going to go take that visit to Florida. So it seems like it's USC and Arkansas. I don't know if we're going to get an announcement now today. With these recruits, man, you just never know when they're really gonna,
sometimes you're just waiting on a commitment graphic.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Sometimes they're just like, I don't really feel like doing it today, and getting my phone blown up. But I know the staff is pretty confident that he's going to be a Razorback, and I would put it, somewhere in I already put a crystal ball in for him to be a Hog and end up at Arkansas. If you look back, their last couple of commitments, they've all come on Monday. I think it's been like 4 straight Mondays they've landed a commitment. So it would be a little weird if they strayed away from that. Maybe we get another evening Monday evening announcement, but I do, no matter when it comes, I do expect DJ Wagner to announce that he's coming to Arkansas and following Calipari. And like you touched on a minute ago, that is one of their biggest needs right now, is they just needed a guard, kind of a floor setter, an experienced guy. Can Boogie Fland possibly be that guy eventually and develop into a guy that can kind of set people up and then also go get a shot and go get a bucket when you need it? Yeah, he can do that, but it's a freshman, and that's a lot of responsibility. As we saw with Wagner last year, it was a lot of responsibility and a lot of expectations for a lead guard in the SEC in college basketball. And so you need to have an experienced guy in that position, at least, and as guys like Boogie Fland are trying to figure out and adjust to the college game.
Yeah, I'm sure Boogie Fland could do it, but when I see a guy listed as a combo guard, which he is, I think, okay, this is a short two guard, like an Allen Iverson, a guy that's a score first mentality, who's who's a little bit shorter. So
yeah, and that was kind of the knock on Wagner's recruitment, is that he was kind of a guy that could go get a bucket, score at all three levels, and he could get a shot, but they wanted to see more from him, and they wanted to see his, I believe one of the biggest knocks was his assist to turnover ratio at times, where he would just be careless with the ball. And Fland has kind of gotten that same knock. They're very much cut from the same ilk, if you will. I mean, they're both typical Calipari kind of guards, where he gets these guys who can really, score the basketball at will, and he loves to kind of mold them into guys who can, flesh out the more other areas of their game and become that all-around guard who can run the offense, set guys up, put them in positions to be successful. And I think that's what you're going to see with Wagner once he does commit to Arkansas. And then with Fland, that's what they're kind of hoping that they can develop him into, is to continue to see flashes of that, traditional lead guard who can really run the offense and be that floor general out there.
Connor Goodson joining us again. You can follow him at Connor Goodson on Twitter. He's the HawgSports recruiting analyst. So right now they've got, is it Adu Thiero, right? Is that how you say it?
Yep.
John L. Davis, Nelly Davis, Jonas Adu, Zvonimir Ivisic. Those are the four transfers. That makes up the number one ranked transfer portal class in the country right now on 24/7 Sports. The recruiting class, which consists of 3 composite 5-stars, is ranked number 6 nationally. Boogie Fland, Carter Knox, Billy Richmond. So say DJ Wagner jumps on, and that gives Arkansas, 8? So, and we know Calipari's talked maybe 9, 10 guys, and then, maybe bringing some walk-ons in, put them on scholarship. I don't think that's the worst idea in this day and age in terms of, how you spend your money. Are you going to spend money on guys that are sitting on the end of the bench, disgruntled, guys that you brought in through the transfer portal or through recruiting and stuff? Or are you going to give those spots to walk-ons and roll with 9 or 10 guys? I think that makes a lot more sense in the climate that we're in right now.
Yeah. I mean, with the climate now, everything is, coaches are still kind of learning what the best and most effective way to construct these rosters would be. And I think you're starting to see that mentality where it's like, I don't want a guy who's expecting to come in here and be the 9th guy. Well, he's really the 12th or 13th guy, and he's getting paid NIL budget that we could be using to help other guys who are actually contributors. And we're wasting it on a guy who's not really playing. And that's where a lot of the issues with minutes, role, and payment come from, is you got guys that aren't really happy to be the 10th or 11th guy. Everyone was kind of taking Calipari's comments literal, where he's like, I want 9 guys. You might think I'm crazy, but I want 9 guys from his podcast last week. But I think that if there is a 10th guy, there's been a couple of names floated out there. Kayshawn Pryor is probably leaning towards being that 9th addition right now. Arkansas is in a good spot with him. He's a forward, 6'10" forward from South Florida. I think that it's trending that direction for Arkansas to land him. He would be the 9th addition if Wagner's also on board. So then you're looking at the 10th option, and names like Coleman Hawkins, the Illinois transfer. You've got also Jalen Wells from Washington State, I know JT Toppin, Wooga Poplar, those guys have all been kind of mentioned somewhat as possibilities that Arkansas has been talking to. If they don't hit on any of those guys, obviously, he said he wanted 9, but if they miss out on these big name guys, the Hawkins, the Wells, they're probably not just going to go get somebody or just be content with just grabbing anyone and paying them for that 10th spot. They're going to be really picky, and if this 10th person can't really help them in an area of need, they need some scoring, they could use some front court depth, then they're not just going to just take somebody to have a 10th guy that may fit the need. They're going to be pretty particular, and it's very possible we go into next season with Arkansas only having 9 guys that are really going to play. Now, another possibility that I think it will happen is Lawson Blake, the walk-on for Arkansas. He's been in the last 2 seasons. I think it's trending in the direction where he will be added on scholarship. And so he's been a walk-on the last 2 seasons under Musselman. He was the Lone Ranger, if you will, the last guy remaining during the whole Musselman to Calipari transition. He was the only guy on the roster, and I think that we'll see him get added on scholarship going into next season. But that's kind of how you have to do it. You get 9 to 10 guys that you're confident in that can contribute, and then you fill it out with guys who are, walk-on type players who don't really expect to be to have, solid minutes or be big-time contributors. They're just there just kind of to provide emergency depth or kind of an insurance policy type thing.
So if you had to guess, say Wagner jumps on, who do you think is 9 or possibly 10? Is it Pryor? Is it Hawkins, Poplar, Wells, somebody else?
I think
crystal ball it.
If I had to put money on it right now and crystal ball right now, I would say it's Pryor. Pryor would be the 9th, and he fits that kind of need right now. Not including Wagner, Arkansas needs a lead guard, and they need a kind of a true 4, a stretch 4 who can kind of play inside if they need to, can defend, but can really stretch the floor on the offensive end. And Pryor really fits that mold for what they need at the 4 right now. He can defend really well. He showed this past season he's got a really great motor. Became a fan favorite with his hustle on the defensive end, his ability to chase down rebounds and things like that. So I think that you're looking at Pryor being the 9th addition, and then 10th. I think that they're going to swing for guys like Coleman Hawkins. I know North Carolina's missed on Big Cliff from who went to Alabama, the Rutgers transfer, and then they also missed out on Jonas Adu, who we know committed to Arkansas. So they're in desperate need of a big, and I know they're pulling out all the guns to make a run at Coleman Hawkins. Arkansas is going to be in that mix for him if he does decide to, not go through with the NBA draft process. The combine is this week, so we should get some clarity on some of these guys. Jalen Wells from Washington State, who is 6'8", but he's technically a 2. He played a lot at the 2 guard for Washington State last year as just kind of an oversized shooting guard. He's shown flashes of being able to defend on the wing, but he's really just a sharpshooter. And I think that those are the 2 that most likely Arkansas is going to swing on if they do decide to come out of the NBA draft process and return to school. And if they don't miss on, or if they do miss on both of those, then I think maybe they're getting close to just saying, okay, we'll roll with our 9 guys.
Yeah. What is there any reason for concern or to watch Davis and Adu as far as NBA? Or do you think that's just a matter of time before they end that or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time before they officially withdraw from the process.
What's the deadline? Do you know the deadline off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. I'll have to look. I know I had it written down somewhere.
College and NBA both have different ones, I think, still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I wrote it down because I was like, I didn't think that was the same one, but I'll have to find it here in a minute. But I do know that Davis is going through a workout here sometime soon after he got invited to the G League Combine, but declined that invitation, and he's going to hold a private workout for a select few NBA teams at some point after that, and then get feedback from them before I would assume he's going to officially withdraw. But that's the expectation right now, is that Davis is going to withdraw at some point. I don't think that there's really a ton of smoke for him staying in the draft process. I think it's more about, with those two, just getting more solid feedback on what scouts want to see improvement in, what areas of their game they need to really work on going into this next season before they enter the process again after this year.
Yep. All right, we'll get you out with this, Connor. Just your general thoughts on Arkansas's opponents, not playing Kentucky but one time, and in Lexington. Just your general thoughts.
Yeah, it is a little disappointing that we're not going to get that home and home series with Kentucky this year. I know that has been one of the biggest games on both teams' schedules the last decade plus. It's just always a different vibe when Kentucky's coming to Bud Walton Arena. No matter who the coach is, it's kind of always been that way dating back to the 90s. And so it does sting a little bit not to get them back in Bud Walton, but it will be interesting to watch how the Rupp Arena crowd receives Calipari and what the school, if at all, they decide to maybe honor him in his return game. That'll be fun and a spectacle in and of its own. But I really think that this is a pretty.
You think they're going to honor him?
I mean, he brought a national championship. You've
yeah.
seen coaches.
It ain't happening. I can tell you right now, that's not happening.
Oh yeah.
It'll happen when he retires, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they've put together, in the NBA, they'll trade away like a 12th guy on the roster, and they'll give him like a little at one of the timeouts, like a thank you so-and-so, whenever they come back with their new team. And so he might get like a little note on the jumbotron to be like, thanks, Cal. But that would be my extent to honoring him. But yeah, it's just going to be interesting to watch that. And
yeah, to be honest with you, I would rather it be in Lexington than here, as weird as that sounds. I just think the spectacle of it, it'd be more entertaining for Cal to walk back into Rupp Arena as the opposing coach versus Kentucky coming here with a whole new set of players and a new coach. Yes, it's always going to be big when Kentucky comes in. It's a great environment every time. But if you can only have one, I just kind of I like going to their place. I just like the spectacle of it,
Yeah, I definitely I see that, and I kind of tend to agree. If you can't have both, one from just a pure entertainment value, it's obvious you want to watch him walk back into Up Arena for the first time. Yeah. I just kind of wish you would. And my dream scenario would kind of be for them to go to Kentucky, get that out of the way in the first part of the year, and then kind of the back end of the year, Kentucky kind of come back to Bud Walton Arena and kind of get that revenge if things don't go your way in Lexington.
I'm hoping the Kentucky game is very early also in the season. So, all right, Connor, good stuff as always, man.
Really appreciate it, and take care, man.
All right, everybody. That's Connor Goodson. Again, follow him at Connor Goodson, HawgSports Hoops analyst, at Connor Goodson on Twitter, and you can read all of his content at HawgSports.com if you want all the late-breaking basketball news. A lot of the content is VIP, so you do need to sign up for a VIP subscription. Again, 30% off right now for your first year. Eric Mateos slams current state of college football for hurricane of illegal recruiting, teams stealing players. So he was on the Coaches and the Mouth podcast just, when was this? May 10th, May 9th, May 10th, something like that. And here's what he said. So apparently there are coaches coming after Fernando Carmona already. Now, I know there's poaching in college athletics. It's not just like a guess. Coaches are talking about it. I've seen it. I've been very suspicious of things. You can tell a lot of the times when a player announces that they've entered the transfer portal, almost always like the first school that they announce, hey, picked up a scholarship from so-and-so, that's the school that's been diving in on them. Hey, you should enter the transfer portal. Not maybe the coaches, maybe it's the collective. As this article suggests, the collective trying to get players to enter the transfer portal, maybe teammates or something like that, some kind of intermediary that's doing it. But you can always tell it's like so-and-so announces they enter the transfer portal, blessed to be offered a scholarship by X school, and then, maybe announce some other schools that have offered, and then inevitably commit to the school that they first announced was the first to offer them. It's almost like a dead giveaway. I've seen it over and over again. I've seen, OU years ago with Mike Woods. That was probably one of the first instances I ever saw where I had heard that Mike Woods was going to enter the transfer portal, and I'd heard he's going to Oklahoma, and lo and behold, this is years and years ago now. He ends up at Oklahoma. Heard it with other players too, that I'd be more suspicious of. But anyway, that stuff absolutely happens. Here's what Mateo said. Guys are trying to steal our left tackle from us already. Fernando Carmona just enrolled for the spring semester. He just went through spring football after transferring to Arkansas from San Diego State. So guys are trying to steal our left tackle from us already, and he just got here in January, Mateo said Friday via the Coaches in the Mouth podcast. That's the challenge with it. How do you manage people trying to come get your guys? My goal is to get players who love playing here at Arkansas. They love playing for me, and they love playing with each other so much that the cheating going on doesn't really faze them. With Fernando, I called him, and I was like, hey, man, I know people are coming after you, trying to get you to leave again, Mateo said. He's like, Coach, you don't have to worry about nothing. I'm riding with you. I knew he would say that, but as a coach, you just got to live in this constant state of paranoia. College football, basketball, baseball, any college sport, it's the least regulated sport on any level in the United States. From Pee-wee to the pros. This is the most unregulated sport when it comes to not having any transparency, no contracts, there are contracts, but they don't really mean a whole lot, right? They're 1-year deals. It's just there'll be something done. I don't know when, but stuff like this isn't good for college football. It's not good for, any of the college sports. Not to have any kind of transparency. It's not good for the sport, period. So, all right, we're going to go to Danny now. Y'all know Danny West. You're following him at Twitter, on Twitter, at Danny West 24/7, X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it. Let's see. Where you at, Danny? There you go. Again, follow him at Danny West 24/7, HawgSports recruiting analyst. And he's been pretty busy. Arkansas right now is at 82, right, Danny? 82 scholarship
82,
players.
Buddy.
Yep, got 3 spots open, and it's been a little bit. It's been a little quiet. What's the latest?
Yeah, Trey, I think we're in kind of a unique portion of the recruiting calendar. We see it every year. There's a little bit of a dip after the, of course, the madness of the spring transfer portal period, that 15-day window, and, of course, the visits that coincide. But, of course, a million high school visits throughout the spring. Then you get into this, 2 or 3 week spell here before the official visits kick off on May 31st. So about 2.5 weeks out from that.
2 or 3 weeks spell?
Yeah, 2 to 3 weeks. But coaches are still on the road for the spring evaluation period. Of course, Arkansas always tends to wait until after spring, after transfers, to go out and really hit the recruiting trails for the evaluation period. So I think the plan is for them to stay on the road through the end of the month. That doesn't mean every single minute on the road. Obviously, I'm sure they'll be able to come back and have somewhat of a normal life. But, May 31st is really what we're gearing up towards now. So there is a little bit of a quiet calm before the storm, if you will. But, that's middle of May recruiting for you.
So 3 spots left. They're at 13 offensive linemen, so you think maybe an offensive lineman would help. We've talked about adding another defensive tackle. What else do you think are the needs for this team?
Yeah, if I had to, you nailed it. First of all, offensive line, defensive line is where I would spend at least 2, and I'm sure they would always like to hold on to 1 or 2 even. We've seen walk-ons get rewarded. You look up and you see Josh Street now on scholarship. Guys like that, I'm sure there's a couple more in the mix for a scholarship at some point. So I'm not sure how much they want to push, to actually fill up that number right now. I would think JUCO route might be a possibility, especially on the offensive line. Wouldn't shock me if they look for a tackle even, in the JUCO ranks. But defensive tackle, Trey, we saw another one come off the board over the weekend. JVR Suggs, the Grand Valley State defensive tackle transfer, who just blew up. I mean, absolutely blew up. Arkansas got the first transfer visit from him. I was thinking, man, it's sounding really good. Then he goes to Wisconsin. I think he went to Kentucky. Then you saw the big boys come in. USC got him out west for a visit. Michigan jumped in there. He's from Detroit. And then, of course, LSU was a big one last week. So over the weekend, he trimmed his list from 6 to 4, excluding Arkansas. So they're on the outside looking in now. Arkansas did pick up a defensive tackle transfer from the JUCO ranks, Danny Saili. I think I'm nailing that name correctly there, Trey. It's Saili. I looked up pronunciation. They seem to suggest Saili. So could just call him Danny. Very strong name. 6'3", 355 out of Hutchinson Community College, committed to BYU, and signed with them in December. Actually joined them and entered the transfer portal in the spring. And lo and behold, he's Arkansas's guy now. But I'm with you, buddy. I think they need – I'm not sure they're even looking at taking another defensive tackle at this point, but I think they need one. That's just my opinion.
Well, last Monday was a big day for transfer portal. I mean, you had Salee at 150, and then at 426, Kafri Brown, the wide receiver, who is intriguing. He was a former 4-star prospect. He had a knee blowout, I think maybe in high school or something. And what he go to North Carolina first, and then later transferred to South Florida.
That's it.
But you had him, and you also had Edu Thiero. I feel like I'm butchering that name, but there's so many names. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to.
New for me.
It's a tough one. Now for basketball, but that was Monday also. So you had three.
Thinking, man, I missed one.
Yeah, no, you had 3 commitments, and this Monday so far has been pretty quiet, and it's been quiet ever since then. I mean, you had DJ Wagner come in and Darius Acuff, and but it's been kind of quiet overall aside from that. So, but it tends to happen in spurts. So.
It does. It comes and goes. But, hey, I'm with you on Brown. I like that pickup right there. I like them all. There's something to like about each of them. But Kafri Brown, I think Bobby wanted another deep shot guy, Trey, is what I think. I mean, this is a guy – South Florida had 2 of them last year, average over 16 yards a carry. And, to put that in perspective, you think of maybe Andrew Armstrong had a really good average last year, or in your mind it seemed that way, right? And then you look up and he was less than 15 yards per reception last year. And you look at some of his games, his stat lines, some of his longest receptions in games last year, it was 59, 84, 32, 31 consistently now. Just about every week he's coming up with at least one of those types of plays. So you hit it there. Former 4-star recruit, did sign with North Carolina coming out of high school. His big brother played there for the Tar Heels and went on to the NFL. So a little bit of bloodlines there. He had 435 yards and 5 touchdowns last year. And, you think about that receiver room. I love Armstrong. C.J. Brown impressed me in the spring from what little I saw. You could probably give a better synopsis of that. But Broden obviously in and out a little bit in the spring. You got Tesla back, Bryce and Jaden still in the mix. But, you've added some speed now with Cross Johnson and CJ, I think, is the guy that can run. The A&M transfer, Jordan Anthony, comes over, and now you get this one. Just seems like ever since Bobby Petrino showed back up in Fayetteville, it's been let's go get some deep shot type guys. Yeah. So I think this one could be one that we're not really talking a whole lot about. And I'm sure you're going to ask me about Monte Harrison as well, another, wild card type.
Well, with Brown, though, did he tear his ACL as a freshman? Because he had 15 catches for 337 yards and 2 touchdowns as a freshman, and then his production really dropped off after that. And then last year he
maybe
bounced
his second year.
Yeah,
I mean, if you asked me a week ago, I probably still wouldn't remember. That's how it comes and goes in my mind. But I think it maybe his second year he got hurt. I'm not sure. I'll check.
I mean, 15 for 337 as a freshman is pretty stout on Power 5 level, and then just kind of kind of dropped off. But Monty Harrison, this guy was I was talking to a colleague of mine, and he was saying that, you should have seen this guy play basketball. And Nebraska was trying to get him back in the fold back in 2020, 2021. He played a little bit in the major leagues, so he made it all the way to the major leagues. But this guy can play basketball, baseball, football. At the Rivals camp back in 2014, I guess, 2013.
He's a 14 guy.
He was the wide receiver MVP. He was a former 4-star, so this is a guy who's an athlete. He's 28 years old, so he's obviously going to be the oldest player. They're going to give him a nickname like Uncle Harrison or Uncle Monty or something like that.
Oh yeah, Pawpaw something.
Yeah, but this guy's obviously an athlete. He's 6'4", 225 also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Devon McClure comes to mind a little bit. I try to keep my expectations in check. That's no disrespect to Harrison. I remember him actually in 2014. He was part of a class that had some dogs, man. Debo Samuel, Myles Garrett was in that class, Deshaun Watson, Fournette, the running back. He was in that class.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing Monty's name quite a bit in that 2014 class. Arkansas didn't have a shot. They hardly ever do with the Kansas City 4-star types anyway. But, yeah, I remember him as an athlete coming out. And then, but again, 10 years is a long time, buddy. You know that. It's quite a jump even when you haven't had a break from it. So I'm with you. I think he looks like $1 million. He looks like Burks, physically. But, man, there's a lot that goes into it. I just think it's a fun storyline for now. We've seen cases around this. I think Coach B at Illinois has like a 31, 32-year-old on his roster right now, but most of the time you see –
Of course it would be
crowd.
Brett would have the oldest player in college football.
But there's quite a few around the country, actually. I remember 7-8 years ago, the 55-year-old at South Carolina State. Not sure how long that lasted, but I do remember that. Seemed like North Dakota State. A lot of these smaller schools bring in a specialist or something, but this one's a little bit unique, and because he is a skill player and he was so talented coming out of high school. So you never know. I mean, there's probably a greater chance with this one being actually, a contributor than most of these types of stories, I would say. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think there's a chance. I'm anxious to see him and get a look at the other guys. I mean, there's some other players that are still Bradley Shaw and Wyatt Simmons, Cross Johnson.
Yeah.
Will be coming in addition to some of the most recent transfers that they've gotten. Anything else, Danny, that we need to look forward to as far as football recruiting goes?
Did we touch on Tyrell Reed's commitment?
We did not. No, we didn't.
Okay, I want to make sure we mention Tyrell. He was actually, I think he played a pretty significant role in getting Salih to commit. I mean, they grew up together in Topeka. Tyrell actually spent his senior year of high school in Lawrence, but reconnected at Hutchinson Community College. And Tyrell, of course, is the running back, 5'9", 205. A lot of people want to throw out Dennis Johnson-type comparisons. Not sure I see that just because, I think he's a little bit different. DJ, in my opinion, Trey, was one of the strongest 5'9" types that I've ever seen. Just at his lower base, he could just run through you. I'm not saying this guy is not like that, but what I like about Tyrell is, over 38-inch vertical, the shuttle 4.31 or something ridiculous. Really quick, explosive type guy. So think about the running back room. I actually think it might be one of the top few team strengths just on paper right now as we talk in the middle of May. I like what they've done. I know they lost some good guys who had been around for quite a while, but you think about Rodney Hill coming in, Tyrell Reed, but of course the big one is Jaquindon Jackson. Everybody that saw the spring game saw what we saw in a couple of scrimmages there this spring. So Braylon Russell as well. Can't forget the freshman. That's a pretty solid group right there, in my opinion. Yeah,
a couple thoughts. I remember when Dennis Johnson was hurt for a while. I think it was maybe when he had the intestinal deal when he fell on the football weird,
I forgot about that. That's right.
And I remember he came back. I feel like we were in Auburn or something. I can't remember where we were, but I was in the locker room and he'd just done an interview and I, put my hand on his shoulder. I was like, "It's good to have you back." And I remember thinking, does this dude have his shoulder pads on still? Because his shoulder was, hard as this table. I mean, that dude was put together.
He was solid.
He was solid as a rock. I mean,
yeah,
solid.
You go back and watch that. I want to say it was 2013. It could have been 2012 in Little Rock against Ole Miss. Arkansas ended up losing the game, but you watch some of his runs in the last few minutes there. He almost single-handedly won that game on a really bad Arkansas team, by the way. But, just a workhorse. I love Dennis Johnson.
So, Jaquindon Jackson, my other thought on that, I saw a picture of Jaquindon, and he's, graduated from Utah, and he's got his, he's got Utah stuff on, like just around his scarf and stuff, his family, and, everybody's dressed in normal clothes. And I saw Rocket Sanders. Rocket Sanders graduated from the University of Arkansas. He walked. It was just kind of weird to see, and congrats, Rocket's first in his family to graduate.
Rocket, yep.
Graduate college, a cool deal and everything. But it was kind of weird at the same time, and it's not weird because this is the world we live in now. But he plays football for South Carolina now. But he's got, on his, the sash he's got is it says, it's got a Razorback and it says football 24, and his whole family is there, and they've got on, I think people saw maybe the KJ Jefferson shirts like his family was wearing and stuff. Rocket's got kind of similar shirts, but it says Raheem Sanders 24, Raheem Sanders like 2024, and it's got him, in Razorback gear and all that stuff, and the shirts are cardinal and white. It's just kind of weird to see, but at the same time,
crazy,
not weird.
Man.
I'll tell you what else is weird.
I can't get used to it.
I know it is. It's just strange, but. We've been spelling this dude's name, Raheem Sanders, with no apostrophe.
Right.
And his family, on all their shirts, it says R-A apostrophe Heem. We've never spelled it R-A apostrophe, and not even on the official website at the university, not on his recruiting profile. Never.
No, I've been spelling it R-O-C-K-E-T the whole time.
There you go. All right, brother.
But no, I'm with you, man. It's weird. It never gets normal for me. I remember the first few times we saw it with Greg Brooks and Fouché and Mike Woods.
Yeah.
These dudes were 100% Razorbacks. They used to help recruit other kids all the time. Like they were lead recruiters. And then you look up and, they're playing for LSU and Oklahoma, and it's going to be the same feeling with Rocket. I mean, I don't know. I told Matt Jones one time I've got a 2001 list of autographs from the Razorback football team. Came to Fan Day way back, 2001. Still have all the autographs. Most of those guys were 4- and 5-year Razorbacks. And now, they just come and go, man. I'm just doing the best I can to stay afloat, honestly.
It is weird. And I don't know. I guess it changes kind of how you think about guys, when they leave you and go somewhere. Now it's changed because when when Fouché and Greg Brooks, when those guys, and I haven't heard an update on Greg Brooks, by the way, but when those guys left, it was just like people were furious. How could you, you're starting, you're not just buried on the bench or something like that. You're starting here and you leave. That was and Mike Woods was the same way. People were betray. And now it's just kind of like, okay, well, go get another guy. Get a guy that's comparable. Maybe this frees up a spot. Maybe they can go get somebody better. And it's just the way people think about it has changed so much just in a short amount of time. But back when those guys were, first did it and left as starters, it was just like people were. I'd get a call from Greg Brooks' grandmother, about some of the stuff that people were saying about him on the message board, and I was, I don't have to tell you. You've got an imagination, So things have definitely changed.
Yeah, I've dealt with it, and that's part of the selfishly, Trey, from a recruiting writer standpoint. That's part of if I could change anything, man. And I don't know how it would change, but back in the day, man, you get to know these people and their families for 3, 4, 5 years, and sometimes that's before they even get to college.
Yeah.
So of course they spend 2, 3, 4 more around you in the program. You get to know people quite well, and they go on, they make families, and you get wedding invitations and baby announcements. And now half of them I just met last week. That's what it feels like anyway. So
Danny, how many Arkansans, by Arkansas I mean people that either were born in the state or went to high school in Arkansas, how many Arkansans on scholarship do you think are on the Arkansas football roster?
Oh man, I wouldn't even begin to guess.
Take a guess.
Less than 10.
No, you're close though. You're close.
Less than 15?
I feel like most people would have said 20 or something, but it's 12. There are 12 scholarship players on the roster. I
knew it wasn't much, but yeah, and that's part of the trend we're seeing right now, too, inside the state. I'm not sure, I don't want to speak for some of these guys because there is some big announcements coming up in June, of course, with Omarion Robinson, Money Elston, his teammate there. They plan on committing, I want to say June 29th, same day. So we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, you think about Courtney last year going to Missouri, Carius this year in this year's class, committed, decommitted, much like Courtney. You're just seeing a lot of that right now. Keandre Barker, of course, the kid out of BB. I think he left the state, ended up going to Penn State. You got a kid in Bryant going to Notre Dame. Yeah. We're just seeing a lot of that. Marcus Wimberly, OU. That's a trend you can't afford to have that, buddy. And not at Arkansas. You just, even in this climate, even in the transfer-heavy climate, I don't think you can afford to continue that.
Well, the state doesn't produce a whole lot, so when you get them, you need to bring them in. By the way, it should be 13 now because Anthony Switzer is from Maryland, and Anthony Switzer did commit to Arkansas. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so it should be 13 now. All right, Danny. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man.
All right, everybody. That's Danny West. Again, follow him at Danny West 24/7, HawgSports recruiting analyst. You guys know Danny. He does a great job. I don't have to sell him too much to you. I mean, if you're not following Danny West, then you're probably not a diehard Razorback fan. But most of his stuff is VIP, so if you want to sign up at HawgSports, it's a great time to do so right now, HawgSports.com. 30% off the first year. That breaks down to $6.27 a month. There's not a whole lot that you're going to get that you can enjoy all day, all the time. Go to our VIP message board, The Razor's Edge, and follow along with us at HawgSports. And by the way, for those of you who are members, we're going to have a Q&A tomorrow at 11 Central Time. That'll be Tuesday at 11 Central Time with Dennis Dodd with CBS Sports. He recently did a one-on-one sit-down interview with John Calipari, and you can get on there and talk to him about that interview, ask him questions, what he thinks about Arkansas basketball after his one-on-one with Calipari, and maybe provide some more insight and stuff. So a cool deal over on our VIP message board, The Razor's Edge. All right, everybody. I want to thank Connor Goodson for hopping on with us, Danny West, of course, all of you for joining the show. Couldn't do the show without you. Scooby-Doo. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.